The greatest threat to a marriage is not financial issues. It's not the loss of a job. It's not even facing poverty or dealing with illnesses and sicknesses. These things come and go in this life, and you can work through any of that stuff. The greatest potential threat to a marriage happens to be the families of origin, the people who become in-laws. This is especially true if this group of people are very controlling, entitled, and narcissistically driven. Listen, the information I'm about to share with you is information I wish I would have received decades ago. My name is Kevin, and this is The Royal We. Now, before we talk about the greatest potential threat to a marriage being in-laws, I want to let you know that I'm here for your support. Those of you who are struggling through a toxic relationship right now, I do take one-on-one appointments. Down in the description box below this message is where you'll find access to my calendar where you can schedule some one-on-one time with me. Now, one of the greatest lies that we have about marriage is that when you marry, you are marrying into a family. Where did that come from? As a matter of fact, it's the opposite. When it comes to the ancient understanding, as we see written in the Old Testament of the Bible, therefore a man and a woman, by the way, shall leave thy mother and thy father and become united with a brand new partner, a new spouse, and the two become one flesh. You see, the idea and the image of marriage here is not marrying into a family. The idea of marriage is to become a new family. All right? If that scripture can be expanded upon, it would look like this. Therefore, a man and a woman shall leave thy mother and thy father and thy brothers and thy sisters and all thy dependencies that are within that dynamic and become united to form a brand new family. Now, there's two very important decisions that need to be made before anybody gets married. The first decision needs to be this. Are you ready to cut the ties with the family that you've come from? Are you ready to leave thy mother and thy father and thy brothers and thy sisters? Are you ready to leave them emotionally, mentally, physically? Are you ready to cut loose the dependencies? And now watch this, it doesn't mean you necessarily have to, especially if they are a family that's not narcissistically driven, not entitled, then they will be a blessing in your life. But nonetheless, you have to be mentally prepared anyhow. If you're not, then you're not ready for marriage. Because what you're doing is then you're dragging some poor soul into your dysfunctions. And yes, if you are not ready to cut ties with family members, then there is a dysfunction there. Listen, being a mama's boy, daddy's girl, whatever you want to call it, this is a result of some form of dysfunctions because the goal of a family is to prepare young people to go out on their own. And if that's not done, then what they've done instead is create dependencies, possibly even lifelong dependencies that unfortunately you have to work through. And if you get married with these dependencies, then you're dragging, like I said, some poor soul into this dysfunctional world where these dependencies exist, and it's going to be hell. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle for whose family it actually belongs to. It's a nightmare. You don't want that. All right? So the first decision, the first big decision you have to be prepared to make is, are you ready to cut free and cut the ties from the family you've come from? That's decision number one. Decision number two is, are you ready to form a brand new family? Are you ready to be the mother? Are you ready to be the father? Are you ready to be the one? Because if and when you cut the ties of your family of origin, guess what? You're on your own. Are you prepared? And this puts a lot on your plate, puts a heavy burden on you. You better darn well make sure that the person you're choosing to be with for the rest of your life is, in fact, equally yoked at the very least. Someone you can rely on, right? And this puts a burden on you to really get to know the person. And watch this. The families of origin have plenty of time to object before they become in-laws. Do they not? That's what part of the courtship process is all about. It's an opportunity to challenge the potential spouse. Who is this guy who wants to marry my daughter? Who is this girl that wants to marry my son? Listen, I'm a father. I have a daughter. I don't care if some guy comes up to me one day and says, Why you gotta be so cruel? I'm gonna marry her anyway. Listen, I'm gonna say, dude, you wanna marry my daughter? Welcome to Hell Week. All year long, baby. Yep. And parents have every right to do that to potential spouses during the courtship process, all the way up, by the way, until the vows are spoken. Does the priest not say, if anybody in this room objects to these two being married, speak now or forever hold your peace? Where do you think that forever hold your peace came from? I believe it comes from that. Speak now, object now, because once this is done, once it is done, it's a signed deal. It's a blood covenant. It's a covenant between God and these two people, and you can't break it. You can't go back in and say, no, I changed my mind 3 months later because I found out, well, they're Republican, and I don't like Republicans, and I don't want them married to my daughter. Now, it doesn't work like that. You understand what I'm saying? Speak now or forever hold your peace. There's plenty of time to object, but once it's done, it's done. And now watch this. There's a danger in in-laws, and this is what you need to be aware of. This is how it can be bad, because, and the reason you need to prepare yourself by cutting yourself free is because it's not always easy. You need to first mentally be able to detach from your family, because you may not realize, but your tight-knit family of origin, right, that prided themselves, we're so close, we're just a tight-knit family. You may discover later on it's more like a gang, and it's quite scary. And now that you're married and you're trying to form your own family, you might start to feel some pressure. That controlling angst of those people are coming out. And if the two of you, as a married couple, if the married couple's not prepared mentally for that, they won't know how to go to war. And it might be a war. Walking away from a family of origin, especially if they are controlling, coercive, narcissistic, and entitled, it might in fact be a war. And if you're not ready for the potential of that, then perhaps you're not ready to form a new family, right? There's an ancient story out of the Bible, a story of Jacob. How many of you have heard of Jacob? Jacob's most popularly known for Jacob's ladder, his dream. People also know him for his issues that he had with his brother Esau. But watch this. There's a profound message about dealing with bad in-laws. Jacob desired to marry a girl named Rebekah. Rebekah was a daughter of a man named Laban. Laban had two daughters, Leah and Rebekah. Jacob said, Laban, I want to marry your daughter Rebekah. And Laban said, okay, dude, you want to marry my daughter Rebekah? You worked for me for 7 years and you can marry her. Which, by the way, Laban had every right to do that. Again, object prior to marriage. Test prior to marriage. And so Jacob worked 7 years. A lot of you are saying 7 years to get married? Yikes, man. I can't even hold out 6 months, let alone 7 years. Right? But nonetheless, Jacob did it. He fulfilled his end of the deal. And then watch this. Laban showed his true colors. Gave him Leah instead. Jacob said, what's up? I thought I was able to marry Rebekah and you give me Leah? And Laban had some weird excuse. Listen, according to our culture, it's not right to marry off the younger daughter before the older. You know, you understand. I'll tell you what, though. I will let you marry Rebekah still, right? You'll get 2 for the price of 1. All you got to do is work another 7 years for me. And Jacob's thinking, listen, I didn't want 2 wives. I just wanted to marry Rebekah, but I still want to marry Rebekah, so okay. See, Laban was playing him the entire time. This is the entitled nature of narcissistic people. Playing a game with Jacob. Jacob fulfilled another 7 years and finally married Rebekah. But Laban, the controlling, entitled, narcissistic-driven father-in-law now, because now he was Jacob's father-in-law, wasn't done. Because now Jacob was ready to leave, take his family and say, listen, this has been a nice, crazy adventure, but Laban, you're kind of weird, all right? You tricked me once. You haven't really paid me what you told me you would pay me for working for you. I'm not down with who you are. I'm going to take my family now and go. Laban said, Laban was ready for that war, the war that I'm warning you about. Laban chased after Jacob and Jacob's wives. And Laban wanted to kill Jacob, and here was his reason. He caught up with Jacob and said this, the women with you, the women you married, they're mine. See, he in his mind, they are still his daughters. They're mine. They're not yours, they're mine, which makes the children that you have mine too. And all the animals that you have, it's all mine, dude. Ready for war. And now listen, the only way to deal with this is to be together. Obviously, in that story, Laban said, your God visited me and told me to back off. If I touch you, all hell's going to break loose on me, and I don't want that. So he left. Good for him. Smart man. But if he didn't, it would have been Jacob and Jacob's wives against their own father. Now, that's worst case scenario, but I'm telling you, this is something that you need to be able to prepare for. You need to be able to, before getting married, both parties should be able to have this understanding that if it comes down to it, am I ready to cut the ties with my families of origin? Because that is the greatest potential threat to a marriage. Listen, I want to be a part of your healing journey. I know this is a difficult message. Some of you are shaking your head at me saying, Kevin, what are you doing, man? Kevin, what are you doing? But you know it's true. And I know that the word of God is spoken right into your heart right now. You know it's true. Listen, I want to be a part of your healing journey. Down below, you'll find access to my calendar where you can schedule one-on-one time with me, telephone calls, FaceTime, WhatsApp, video calls. It's all available for you, text message consultations. In addition to that, Monday night is where we live chat. Saturday morning is where we fellowship. You'll find access to all this and much more down below in the description box. And I'll be back with more videos for you right here on The Royal We.